Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Today we welcome back our head of trading, and that is Kyle from Market Mastery. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me here.
No worries. Today we're going to jump into a few charts of the most interesting setups, strength and weakness with alts. But I want to talk about why we're seeing, altcoins lagging. Particularly a lot of the work we've been doing with our high net worth clients and getting people's portfolios right for the rest of this cycle. But just in general, what are you sort of seeing and thinking and feeling?
Well, it was like what we were just talking about with, the meme coin phase that's just going on right now. I should say craze instead of phase, because there's so many coins. Like, for example, one of the guys in our Discord group just popped up and said, the Ross Ulbricht coin would be a good one to get on because Trump's going to, quit him and everything like that and reduce his sentence, as soon as he gets in on January 20th. So that Ross Ulbricht coin will pump. And so I got onto the X screen and had a look, and there's like 40 Ross Ulbricht coins. It's like,
Yeah.
the dilution is just so extreme, and it's like that for basically everything, every single possible brand you could think of. There's a million different types of Pepe coins and Pepe's birthday coin, everything. And so just like all the people that used to trade altcoins are now trading these things, and it's just sucked the volume away from alts. And
Yeah.
potentially we're going to have a reckoning for them soon, and everyone will go back to actually trading quality projects. But I don't know, maybe that goes on for a lot longer than we think.
I think, well, it ties into the theory I had about conspiracy kind of coins and these cultural, and the way of getting like messages out and getting messages trending almost has become, memes have become another way to do it. But now it's just so saturated, as you say, there's 40 free Ross coins. So I think you need things that have, that's going to stand the test of time in terms of meme coins and communities and cults and that type of thing. But I completely agree with the dilution. There's way too many memes. Someone said it was 13,000 a day on Pump.fun at the peak before they pulled the live streaming and all that chaos. But it's the same for altcoins now. There's just tens of thousands of alts, and it's nothing like the previous cycles where get a bit of momentum behind an idea and a concept and a narrative, and then it builds and goes from there. At the moment, we're sort of lacking real narratives, I think, apart from Bitcoin and Bitcoin DeFi.
There's not a lot of narrative playing.
AI agents is probably the other one that Michael spoke about a few weeks ago, which is picked up with virtuals and stuff. But yeah, there's just no real clear narratives, and so that's diluting attention. And then we've got too many coins. So I think you got to stick to quality, man. It's been all about institutional money and whatever coins get the next ETFs, and that's where that big money's going to flow. So that's why Bitcoin dominance is probably going to continue.
So what do you think the top potentials for ETFs are this year?
The ones with more regulatory certainty. So something like Litecoin that's proof of work and decentralized has been around forever, maybe. Maybe even Bitcoin Cash or something. But then you definitely got like your XRP, which has got its second life after 7 years. People are saying HBAR, which again I haven't followed. I really don't know what they're up to. But probably those older ones are way more of a chance than newer ones, unless you're really established now, like say Sol would be that most recent one to maybe get an ETF. So that's kind of the way I'm viewing it. But we've already seen talk of like basket coins and top 10 ETFs and stuff. So
Exactly. No, I think you're right with Solana probably being the only newer coin that has a chance of getting in, just because it's one. It's what is it, on in the top 10 market caps? It's fourth now, or something like that. So
yeah, been on the
yeah,
charts.
that's probably going to be one of the ones that they look at, and then just because it's obviously so popular, but then the other ones that have that history, have passed the tests of the SEC, etc., etc.
Yeah,
Which brings us to, I want to talk to you about XRP because,
yeah,
I'm a bit of an old head. I'm a bit of a Bitcoin maxi. I've hated XRP for a long time for multiple reasons because, it was always so centralized, doesn't really have that much activity on chain and stuff like that. They also dump into the marketplace a billion coins every single month. But, now a lot of those are being locked up or whatever by the foundation anyway. But then, I also, the chart is horrific as well. It basically just looks like a scam pump that pumps for like 2-3 weeks and then just has a 99% pullback almost
yeah.
every single time. So, for multiple reasons, trading wise, and then also the fundamentals, I was never really a big fan, but I haven't really been following for probably the last 4 or 5 years. And
Yeah.
it seems to be that you've been down the XRP rabbit hole a fair bit. And there's, I think a few things that I'm not up to date on. So do you want to give me a bit of a breakdown?
Yeah, for sure. Well, no one was more anti-XRP than me, and when I was very much from that initial cypherpunk philosophy of decentralization with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And my theory, I said in 2017 or 18, was that stable coins are going to take off. Like, it's no need for banks to buy up XRP tokens to use for cross-border payments for a volatile currency. Like, none of it made sense to me. And sure enough, we saw Tether, USDC, even Make a Die, like all those stable coins grew and XRP didn't get any traction. But I think that's now changed with the Trump administration being so pro-crypto, and they're also looking to completely rejig the financial system. They're even talking about maybe ending the Fed, and everything that they're doing is basically to drain the swamp of this corruption we've seen for decades. And so that brings a completely new light to look at it in. And if XRP and Stellar have been doing all this stuff to make sure they're ISO compliant with these new banking standards and blah blah blah, and then we're going to get rid of all these crappy cross-border payment systems where banks are charging people too much, it makes sense that Trump might go, yep, if they've got this quantum financial system that's fast and easier and more secure and it's all sort of transparent or whatever, I think there's a chance that could be something that's not far-fetched like it was years ago. And so I think the chart, which we'll get to in a second, is probably one of the ones that looks stronger versus all those previous pumps that just gave it all back straight away. So
Does look a lot better this time.
That's two of the charts I want to look at with you. Another one is Cardano, which has made that pivot more towards being a Bitcoin layer 2.
Okay, I didn't know that. I was literally just about to ask you about ADA because it's one that gets a lot of hate as well. But last cycle it had an unbelievable pump for a second cycle, but still like they hadn't really achieved anything. So what have they actually been working on?
So their smart contract platform is a little bit different to Ethereum, and it's compatible with Bitcoin because they use the UTXOs, like it's the way that they do their transactions versus the way that Ethereum do it as a certain state. So without getting too technical, you don't need to understand any of that. But all you do need to understand is that Cardano want to be a layer 2 platform now for Bitcoin because they are sort of, they can interact with each other. And through another project called Bitcoin OS, Bitcoin Operating System, which I had on the channel, I think it's called Grail. They've got a bridge now between Cardano and Bitcoin, and they're using like ZK technology, and it's interoperable. So I think the Cardano community weren't real happy about it initially, but I think it's almost like something that projects almost have to do now, because there's dozens of ETH layer 2s, and how do you keep paying economic security if your model's proof of stake? And I go, I'll pay you 5%, I'll pay you 10% to keep staking. But then it becomes a Ponzi unless you're getting economic activity and fees and stuff. And so that's what all of these other layer 1s and layer 2s are kind of going to struggle with. That's why we're going, shit, all the money is going into Bitcoin. Maybe we should help secure Bitcoin or try and add our smart contracts to Bitcoin, or at least be a bridge or compatible. So again, people are bowing the knee to King Bitcoin, and that looks like Cardano's another project that's going in that direction a little bit, which could give it some new life.
Which is the direction it should go in anyway. Like Bitcoin is like the entire industry was Bitcoin. And then, we had all these little altcoins break away and everyone was like, what do you even need a token for this project?
Yeah.
Right. And now it's sort of like getting to the point where it's like, okay, guys, what do we actually need a token for this project? And then they're like, okay, maybe we should just jump on board the Bitcoin train and be involved in that narrative.
Yeah. No, people are asking those hard questions. And I think there's still good like token models, and there's some things that were ahead of their time. I don't know if you remember Horizon State, like blockchain-based voting, which I was all for. I mean, how relevant...
Are they still around? Or?
Well, yeah, they re-fired up a few weeks ago and re-airdropped all old holders. Check your old wallets. They re-airdropped token to old holders. Because, I mean, how relevant is that today with all this voting fraud and corruption from just corporates to national level? So
I think RFK Jr. was talking about that's one of his goals for this administration, to incorporate a blockchain voting system. So
yeah. So I don't know if it's Horizon State. I haven't heard anything like that. But I have heard that, there's lots of interest there. And they wouldn't have fired it back up if they didn't already have interest in some partnerships. And good on them for airdropping old holders. So I might try and get them on the channel. But timing is everything in investing, as you know. And something like that was just 7 years, 8 years too early. So it's good to see them coming back now.
I've always thought, I'm like, man, that Horizon State project was such a good idea. And yeah, every time there's an election, I'm like, we fucking need this thing so badly. Like, why is it not being installed by everyone? And now, we've finally got a common sense government in the US. Hopefully they'll lead the way and start installing, something like Horizon State there. And then every other country will just have to end up copying them because, could you imagine in Australia if they have a blockchain voting system and we don't, everyone will crack the shit.
Yeah. And again, we don't want to praise Trump until we see actions, because actions speak louder than words. But I think as long as RFK does what he says, and I think there's a lot of hope there. And Trump is in such a position of power. You see him turn around saying, "Oh, we want Canada to be the 51st state in Greenland," and blah blah blah. Maybe he does say we're going to use blockchain-based voting for transparent democracy, and if other countries like Australia or whatever don't, then we're not going to do business with them, and he can sort of force this change for the better again. I don't know. I
feel like that's what they're going to try and do in the UK. Really feels like they're putting the neck on the UK government at the moment, I think Elon is leading the campaign there. Obviously, because with all the rape gang scandal and everything like that, and they forced them to have a vote, and the Labor Party voted against it and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
But then it's also coming out that it looks like the Trump administration is going to go to war with them. Well, not actual war, but they're going to basically sue the Keir Starmer's administration because they sent over 100 government employees to campaign for Kamala Harris. So they're going to go after them for that. So,
sure.
Potentially, Elon's whole thing at the moment is giving power back to the people and getting the people to vote. This is like Vox die, Vox, whatever it is, the saying that he keeps saying, and he keeps repeating that all the time. So, blockchain-based voting systems is the number one way to give the power back to the people. So wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. And I mean, even with a lot of this other stuff that we're talking about, that we're seeing happening, a lot of the people that were kind of been drip feeding this information out about everything, these were the people saying that we're going to see a drip feed to expose a lot of the corruption, and then it's going to go through this child trafficking stuff that's very real that people don't want to acknowledge. And look at exactly what we're seeing now with Elon calling out the child trafficking and all the pedo stuff in the UK. The people that were telling me this was going to happen a year ago were the same people saying, yeah, I think that's looking more likely like quantum financial system and everything's going to be super pro-crypto. So when these people are making these predictions, and I know, as crazy as they seem at the time, how crazy is the world now? And they sort of said this was going to happen. It was going to get worse until the inauguration. And we've just seen the worst fire ever, and I'll cover that in more detail in my next Evil Elites video. But it's wild times, and people have to wake up that something big is coming, there's change in the air.
Something is definitely going on. It is for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Well, the last one I want to talk about before we have a look at these charts was probably Stacks. That's had a big pullback. I think a lot of people there that went from having no one on board to all these big influencer accounts on Twitter within a few weeks, and had that monster run from $1-ish to over $3, and now it's had a 60% healthy pullback. A lot of the coins within that ecosystem have been smashed as well, but I don't think anything fundamentally has changed. When they shipped that upgrade, it probably wasn't as good as they'd hoped, and they've just kept making improvements and rolling out upgrades, and they had another huge upgrade the other day. So nothing's changed for me. If this cycle's all about Bitcoin, it's going to be all about Bitcoin Layer 2s and Bitcoin DeFi as we continue, and so I don't see any reason why things have changed in that regard. And I think it's getting tougher, and we're seeing in the Ethereum chart, it's getting tougher and tougher for Ethereum to keep saying we're the best smart contract platform when more activity is sort of switching to Sol or Bitcoin DeFi or whatever. So that's another thing that suffered from this mass dilution of crypto. But I do feel as long as ETH's got that ETF and it's number 2, it's going to have a big run and start to outperform Bitcoin at some point. But yeah, you tell me what the chart's telling you.
Usually happens a bit later in the cycle, though. Like Ethereum always lags, and then it has a big push right at the end of the cycle, right? The thing to think about is last cycle, when we moved across into 2020, we had a correction and a pullback in the first couple of weeks of January, and then we sort of found our feet around 23rd of Jan, and then Elon announced that they were going to do the Bitcoin transactions for Tesla cars.
Yeah.
And the market sort of took off out of that consolidation. But that was when the altcoins finally started to really move. Like, they were still sort of chopping around inside their previous price action, but they really got bullish after the end of January was when they really took off.
Yeah.
And, so I could see something similar happen here. Like if we end up, breaking out of this current trading range that we're in right now, Trump, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but there's a few rumors that Trump is going to do executive order on the 20th. They're going to change all the accounting methods and everything like that to fair value, but he's also going to do executive order for Bitcoin strategic reserve. If they do that, and then we end up popping off to 137K, like I think that's when altcoins will finally start moving. But what are your thoughts on the executive order?
Yeah, I think that there's been a lot going on behind the scenes. I think what's the name of the legal case? The Brunson case. I think they've won that now beyond a shadow of a doubt, where they can prove the 2020 election was rigged. And so if that's the case, then Biden was not the official president, and the executive orders and stuff he's done while in office might not count. So I think that craziness can still play out publicly. But Trump's having a big rally on the 19th, the day before the inauguration day. And it's National Popcorn Day, and he tweeted about it saying, grab your popcorn for January 19th. So I feel like something big's coming the day before, possibly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, like you said, strategic reserve. We've seen all these like counties and even universities talk about it. And if Trump starts it and everyone follows from there, then Bitcoin can easily get above 200,000 this year.
And have you seen the Facebook proposal, the shareholder proposal for a vote for Facebook to consider some of their $72 billion that they have in cash and bonds at the moment to transfer some of that into Bitcoin?
I haven't, but it doesn't surprise me. Like Mark Zuckerberg's looks like he's done a 180 on everything and goes on the Rogan podcast and sort of says, I'm sorry or whatever. But like I said, this is the change in the air that we are seeing. I feel like the corruption has been drained or is being drained, and these good people are now in control, hopefully. And we're seeing that represented with Facebook announcing they're cutting, 30,000 fact checkers they had or something, and they're getting rid of it now. So I haven't even tried. I mean, I've got so many strikes on YouTube for posting stuff about COVID over the years, but I haven't even tried. Can you post stuff about that on Facebook now and not get censored and fact checked?
Supposedly. And they're going to move all the people that were doing the censoring and stuff like that, deleting posts. They're moving them out of California, because the people that live there too biased.
So if you think about it, now we've got free speech on Meta platforms, so Facebook and Insta. Twitter's, some people do say that some things get shadow banned, but for the most part, you can pretty much find information about any topic, no matter how deep or dark these days. So is Google and YouTube owned by Google? Are they the last penny to drop and the biggest source of, everyone Googles everything? Imagine. I wish I could talk about anything on YouTube right now, but you just can't.
I think Elon's going to do a search engine soon. I think he's going to do a phone and a search engine, and then everyone else is just screwed from that point there, because they'll lose control over everything. If you lose control of the phones through iPhone and Android, then you lose control over Google search. They don't have control over anything anymore. Everything will be open and free. So.
I mean, the other thing, have you added the Twitter X app onto your TV yet?
Yes.
So a lot of people don't know, like you can add, because there's so much censorship on YouTube, Rumble's really taken off as a decentralized YouTube, and you can add that up to your TV to watch all these great docos that are out there now. But X is also being added. So you can add it, and people are uploading the same thing, long format videos and documentaries and stuff. And it's got a pretty Windows 95 feel about it when you use it on your TV at the moment. But if Elon, I think they're waiting to see, should we upgrade this and make it as slick as a YouTube for X, so it's got the media content side of it as well? Or are they going to buy MSNBC and just buy the mainstream media outlets and make that the news that covers the top actual stories of what's really going on around the world every day from the highlights of X or whatever? I don't know, just interesting.
Going to be really interesting, isn't it? I like the X app. It is, a little bit old school and needs to be refurbed a fair bit. But I watched the Tucker Carlson and Elon interview on my TV. TV back here. It works really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And God, there's been some brilliant docos coming out at the moment, or just even interviews on Tucker or Rogan, or just things that we weren't allowed to say for 30 years, and people are just openly talking about it. Really experienced heads that have been trying to get these messages out for years, and it feels like the truth is coming out everywhere at the moment. I don't know if the bad guys at the top is just too many holes to patch now, or that they've been removed from power and we're just allowed to talk about it, but it doesn't matter. The truth's getting out there.
100%. No, I like it, man. It's good to see. It's good to see we're moving back in the right direction for once.
I really hope so. Maybe Australia's a couple of years behind. I don't know who's going to save us here just yet, but
something will pop up.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's have a look at those charts of the coins I've mentioned, and anything else you're seeing that you think's interesting, mate. But levels for people to watch.
Awesome. So yeah, I think Sui is the strongest chart for ages, right? So this has been a really nice trade. A lot of our guys in our community have just been, nailing this one the last few months, but it's just in like this grind up. Now, a few altcoins did this before Bitcoin had its correction in 2020, and a lot of coins were doing this, and then eventually they just went into massive price discovery after that. So we'll have to see. Sometimes when you get choppy price action like this, when you make high, low like this, it can then roll over once you break this uptrend here. But if this happens to stay intact, we can get back above the value area high here, which is basically $5 once we get back above there. And if Bitcoin is pushing to 137K, I think this can really fly and do some quite big numbers. What are your thoughts on Sui? Because I know that Raoul Powell's massive on it, and it's the ex-Facebook Libra team and all that sort of stuff. Interested to hear your thoughts on the underlying fundamentals of it and the team and stuff.
Yeah, I know Raoul. He has a big influence, and I know he's been super big on Sui. I just wonder, it's had such a great run already, and I think it's at like number 11 now on CoinMarketCap. Like
that's 15 billion market cap at the moment.
So realistically for me, it's like, again, it's going to have that in its favor. If it's in the top 10, it's going to do well. But I mean, how much more do you expect it to outperform if it's already nearly in the top 10? Like, is it really going to get up there and replace Solana and that's community? So it's suffering from that same dilution, too many layer one problem that we spoke about. Maybe they do have the best team, and it is the best performer of all the alt layer ones this cycle. But yeah, I don't know too much about the Sui, to be honest, and the differences that it's offering compared to Sol or all these other chains.
So my understanding is that they use the mode programming system, and it's super fast like Solana, but it's easier to develop on. So one of my friends, he made the Pirate Nation game, and also and the proof of play blockchain, which is one of the biggest for gas at the moment, on Ethereum. And I was chatting to him, and he was saying that, because he's developed on Solana as well, and he was saying the thing with Solana is it's super fast, but it's really difficult to program on. So if that is how Sui sort of beats them, and the whole story about Sui is that they had the idea is that you can run a program like Facebook on the Sui blockchain. You have millions of users interacting because they have that massive potential for scale. But
okay,
we'll see it when it actually plays out.
This is one that's Michael's across more, and we're going to start trying to do weekly updates on crypto news. So that is one that I will ask Michael about, hopefully even this Friday, guys.
Yeah, nice. So I feel like this can probably push to like an 80 billion market cap by the end of the cycle, especially if we have a big blow off top, which is what Solana did last time. So it's currently 15 billion at the moment. If we do have like a massive push in this, and it does sort of similar numbers to what Solana did last cycle, then I think it can go up to say like $30 or something.
Wow, that's a big call. Okay.
I mean, if it does copy Solana from last cycle, if it's this cycle's Solana, that's what it should push up to, those sort of numbers.
Okay.
What were the other main ones we wanted to look at?
We'll have a quick look at ETH, but it was more just XRP and XLM and Stacks and Cardano.
Yeah, so we're going to have a look at Ethereum here. What do we got here? So we're inside. Basically, we've got a lot of levels at 3,550, 3,600. So I think once it gets above 3,600, this can look a lot stronger again. Potentially there is some sort of a falling wedge forming here at the moment. So have to wait and see how that ends up playing out. But if Bitcoin can show some strength and we can get back above 3,600, I think it's probably clear again. And the next major target is what's at the previous all-time high at pretty much 5,000, right? Just under 4,900. And then the first fib target is pretty much 6K, right?
Yeah.
That's what I've been looking for in Ethereum. Like, something to break out. Maybe it goes like this, one more down. You get like an inverse head and shoulders here. Flip this level, which I think is a really key level because you've got a lot of long-term VWAP levels there. And then obviously to be a reclaim of that.
Yeah.
Starts to get quite bullish after that, in my opinion.
And you can kind of see it, well, just how it's been struggling to get the momentum and higher lows in the ETH BTC chart, really.
Well, yeah, this is the reason, right? Because it's just been bleeding out against Bitcoin. And like you said, it's the Bitcoin cycle, right? Everyone, if you look at the institutional flows, like it's all going into Bitcoin. There's not a lot going into Ethereum.
Yeah. Yeah, and this has been the first cycle where I've, for a long time, where I've lightened up my Ethereum a little bit to put a little bit into, Sol and Stacks and others, because ETH just has been struggling and just lost its narrative a little bit. But I'm also cautious that when sentiment gets so bad, a lot of people giving up and taking .eth out of their Twitter names and stuff, that it probably also means we're close to a bottom.
Maybe it needs to come back down to this green level down here, 0.026. It's really 27, sorry, 0.027.
Yep.
And we have another bear flag here, right? So, and then it has final capitulation down to here and maybe builds a base, and then we get this move again.
All right, XRP and XLM.
So yeah, we had the nice push after Trump won, and obviously because of the taxes and everything like that, tax benefits. So it's actually looking pretty strong here, to be honest. A bit of a high time frame view. Just looks like a massive bull flag. Like we had a nice push. Had the nice SFP up here in that ugly daily candle and sort of signaled to my group that it's probably done here for now. But if you look at it right now, it just looks like a really nice bull flag. And that in a bull market, you don't get anything that looks more bullish than that. And we've had the breakout, pull back, and then retest, and we're above the yearly developing value area high as well, which is 2.4. Yep. Right. So, and then this structure here is like the main structure that I look for reversal setups. So you get that after a breakout is a really strong sign that this wants to continue higher. So I think this is definitely going to come up and challenge the previous high back here, 2.9. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up going on another big rally, to be honest. And that's a pretty strong push just there. So my only criticism of this is already at 130 billion market cap. Like, how high market cap do we realistically think that XRP can go this cycle before we're like, okay, it's getting too top heavy? Is it one that could possibly go into the trillions this cycle, or is that just like a bit of a pipe dream?
Oh, I mean, like, look at Bitcoin now. If you had said a few years ago that it's going to get to the trillion, then multi-trillion, hard to believe, but it's sort of accomplished its mission of becoming sound money. And if Ethereum can accomplish that mission of being the number one Web3 platform, it can get into the trillions, but it hasn't got a clear roadmap to get there yet. If XRP does start to be used by all these banks and financial institutions, and don't forget, a lot of people have lost XRP. It's been around since 2013, 14, 15, something, it's a lot older than people think. And just like Bitcoin, we have all these old wallets and blah, blah, blah. A lot of people have even passed away in the past 10 years or whatever. So that market cap can be a little bit falsely inflated because of all that stuff and lost coins. But, these days it's just all about excitement and momentum and narrative. And as we said, if there's not many narratives and then institutions start to use XRP and XLM, like that can be a huge play.
Going to go across onto the weekly time frame. I'll go look at the previous.
Bitfinex might have the longest chart.
The Bitfinex one?
I reckon that'll be the longest dated chart. Yeah, or Bitstamp.
Yeah, so this was what we were talking about before, where I wasn't the hugest fan because, these big pumps and dumps, like, what we saw And there was one before this as well. I'll see maybe the big stamp one. Right. But, it always has been a good coin to trade against BTC as well. And then, had a really weak cycle because of everything that was going on with the SEC. So, like, it had like its first initial pump back here in the first alt season we had in 2017. And obviously had the big one after the cycle topped. It really took off after Bitcoin topped, because Bitcoin topped, I think, the 17th of December 2017. So it was that week that Bitcoin topped that XRP really mega mooned, right? And then, basically pulled all the way back within 8 months or something. And it's sort of been trapped in that sort of area around that 50 cents level. It's obviously taken off again now. And, maybe because of all the lawsuits and everything like that, maybe now it's time for XRP to play catch up to Bitcoin, because it was kind of suppressed for so long. So I think that's really the theory there. And obviously it does need more user activity and gets that adoption and everything like that. And maybe Trump is more favorable to it because Brad Garlinghouse is sort of in his pocket a little bit. And, it's a US-based company. So Trump wants all the US-based crypto companies to win, right? That's his sort of philosophy at the moment. So he's obviously going to do everything he can to try and help them, I guess.
Yeah, well, we had another photo of Brad Garlinghouse and Trump tweeted yesterday, I think, or the day before. But just one other thing I want to mention, like when XRP went nuts in end of 2017, 2018, I had some friends at the time who were, early OGs, and they'd got into XRP when it was just cents, and they sort of sold it all, and they couldn't believe it was pumping this much with the banks not actually using XRP. And so what we've seen now is almost, does it remind you like of a stock market positive news announcement and a reprice? More than how you see a typical crypto trade kind of thing?
Definitely. No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to look at it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing here is, like, we had like these big pumps back in. It was just all based on hype. And now what we're sort of moving towards is like you actually need users and deal flow, cash flow going through, and like people actually using the currency now to get interest. So I think potentially we are going to move back into a stage, and this is maybe where the altcoins are going to start to get moving again, where it does get to be a little bit more frothy. It does get to be a little bit more hypey, and people start to focus and trade on things based on their potential. Maybe this does go on a really big run and it goes to $10 or something like that, because people are like, well, what happens if it actually does get adopted by Trump and the White House's, the quantum financial system? And then we go through a whole nother phase back, what we had back here, of where it starts trading on its potential again. Because I don't think any altcoins are trading on, hype potential. They're all trading on what they're currently doing at the moment. So
Yeah. And let's have a look at XLM. I reckon Bitstamp chart will probably be the way to go as well here. But I reckon it's pretty similar, almost like a beta play that outperforms in either direction, more volatile but very similar looking chart. We might have to go a bit Finex actually. Just got more history. Yeah.
Yeah, if you use the trading view chart, it gives you everything, but you don't get any volume.
Perfect, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, still, this is like what we're talking about. Like, it still hasn't outperformed its potential pump back in 2017. It's very cyclical, right? So it's like, I don't even really know what XLM does. Like, what is even the point of it? I just know that one of the founders of XRP left. He created XLM. So, like, if XRP becomes a quantum financial system, what's the point in XLM?
Oh, I think XRP are definitely going like the more commercial route now. Again, I'm not an expert on all this, and I'd love to have someone that's really in the weeds on. But think about XRP as maybe like institutional, and XLM as more retail-y, smaller business payments. Something like that is kind of the model that I've been told is they're looking to roll out. But again, feel free to correct us in the comments if you're fully across all this ecosystem.
Yeah, interesting. And it looks like it's just going to follow XRP, to be honest.
Yeah.
These two are very highly correlated, and same sort of structure here. Like, XRP had the falling wedge, or XRP was a bit stronger actually because it had this is more of a falling wedge. We're getting that inverse head and shoulders that you see a lot after a falling wedge, right? So you have this. So once we break this level here, which is basically 45 cents, once it finally breaks at 45 cents, then can expect to see this get a lot more bullish as well.
Fantastic. And what about Cardano? I haven't had a good look at this chart for a while, but I know the community had a bit of pushback, like I said, when they spoke about being a Bitcoin layer 2, but I think Charles is pretty committed to it. So,
yeah, really interesting. I mean, it sort of looks similar to the XRP pump, to be honest. Like, sort of just was doing nothing, just chopping sideways. Trump wins the election. We have a 300% pump, and it's consolidating sideways. Like, we're having a reaccumulation phase right now. It's still a bit early. Like, it's not as obvious as the XLM one, but you just have the two converging paths, right? And it's going to end up picking a path soon, and most likely it'll resolve to upside. And it's probably just waiting for Bitcoin to do that as well. Like, Bitcoin pumps to 137K, which is our second fib target, right? And this breaks out of $1, which is above the value high here, and it's gonna take off. And then I would expect it to try and run pretty quickly to about $2.20. Then the all-time high is back at $3. So it did have some crazy rallies.
I think it might have even gone higher if you go back further than this chart's got.
Exactly right.
Maybe,
so what do we end up getting to at the all-time high?
$3.20.
$3. And so it's come up, and it's perfectly, this is accumulation range, right? And it's broken out of its accumulation structure. So this is what you would call like the beginning of the markup, the sign of strength. Basically what you have is you have a bull flag here, and then it breaks out of the bull flag, clears, $1.25, and then you're into a solid markup, and then that moves eventually into price discovery. But I think the next target is $2.30, right? $2.37, and it'll probably consolidate underneath that for a little bit, and then it'll try and break the all-time high, which is $3.16, and then it goes into price discovery after that. If the team have actually developed and they do get deal flow coming through and things are moving and it's got hype and there's potential for it to be bigger and greater than what it is right now, then it can move on to something bigger. But if not, it might not break out of the all-time high. It might be its cycle peak gets back up to here, it only makes $2.37, and then it just rolls over and has a weaker cycle this cycle because they haven't done enough. Yeah. It's all about what has the team done? Have they done enough for there to be potential there for the community to be excited to continue to buy it at overinflated prices?
Yeah, very true. All right, stacks.
Yes, STX. This is one a lot of the guys in my community want us to have a look at. Right, so we had this really nice push recently. I mean, like previous price action, full cycle back here, completely pulled all the way back. It was like a 90% pullback or something like that. 94% pullback. And, that was January 23. So it bottomed out pretty early and had a massive 500% move and then pulled all the way back again. So I'm not sure why it had such a big pump back then. Do you know there was a catalyst behind that?
Yeah, no, they had to delay the big upgrade.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then, we had this second run here, which is like 1,000%, 750% move. So from the lows, it's already had, a 1,600%. Like for some projects, that's an entire cycle, right? So it's really going to, obviously, this might end up just being this tiny little blip on the chart like this. And eventually we move, like what you see on XRP. And then, you have price action up near $20 and stuff like that when you go into proper price discovery. But I think this is one of the ones that it's been moving sideways for a while now. There's a big upgrade coming, or they have had the big upgrade, but it isn't quite ironed out just yet. But once they finally get that moving and they get those really fast transactions, it's smooth to use the project as well. That's, I think, some of the feedback has been from my community that like actually using it hasn't really been that smooth. Like it's not really at a Solana level yet.
Yes.
So once it does get to that Solana sort of level where you have the speed, you have the usability, like a really nice Phantom wallet or something like that, then I think that's when it does really well. And, obviously Bitcoin pushing to 150, 200, 250K as well. This being, something that's riding the Bitcoin narrative, being a Bitcoin layer 2, then I think, it really has potential to take off. But looking at the moment, the chart isn't that amazing. We did have a bit of trap traders below here. I'll just get my other chart up quickly. I'll have a look. Right, so in this low here, so what I look for is the SFP through here, right? From I'm sorry, from this one back here. We look for trap traders below there, but we've already moved on to the next day, so I can't see it. But yeah, typically what I would look for would be like, a big volume profile out the side here, but can't see it right now. But yeah, and you look for, see how many trap traders are underneath that. But a lot of charts did have a lot of trap traders underneath here. So, potentially I think this probably should rotate back to $1.82 in the near term anyway. And then, maybe we end up putting in inverse head and shoulders here, something like that.
Yeah.
Falls back to the VWAP and then breaks through. So, the key level to break through is $1.80, and then it can sort of take off from there. But looking at it like larger, higher time frame stuff, previous year VWAP is going to be a bit of an issue to get through, so it needs to flip that at $2.01. And then once we get out of $2.66, then that's when it can really sort of take off. There's the previous year value area high there. Plus, on top of that, we've got this order block here. So I think that's going to be a really big level. Like once we get above there, I think it can push pretty quickly, and then we'll have a bit of issues at the all-time high back here. And then once that breaks through, then you're into price discovery. And that's when things start to really move quite aggressively.
Yeah.
And you can be blown away how quickly things can move once you're in price discovery. If the team have done the right stuff to have potential for the future, for this to be something amazing in the future, be there. That's the big thing I think to watch for. Like the projects that are going to do really well in price discovery this cycle, they're all going to be, have a really strong narrative, and the coin has potential to be something big in the future. And then that's how you get to things being priced based on their potential, priced, much higher or above what they're currently doing right now. Because I feel like at the moment, everything's priced on what it's doing at the moment. We're going to move into a phase of what this potentially could be in the future. And that's when you get the overvaluations, which we definitely don't have.
Yeah, and the fact that we had that crazy run, like I said, we were covering it relentlessly when it was between 20 and 30 cents, and it has had that monster run, and I think that's what it was pricing in, and it hasn't quite hit those roadmap goals as we'd like, but I think it can this year for sure. So, do you want to do Bitcoin just to finish off and talk about maybe if it's going to chop around a little bit and let alts run, or do you think Bitcoin's just going to continue going crazy, or what are your thoughts?
So we just had this really nice sweep of the range low here, right? So, and this is a pretty strong order block here, really strong daily order block. You have the TD9 level here, and also the daily order block just there. So that sort of held quite nicely. But yeah, this is something I just drew up earlier to send out to my community. I just said that, look, this isn't going to be the exact path of how it works, but these are the things we need to watch for Bitcoin has to achieve to it flipping back into a solid uptrend and then going to price discovery to then move up to our target, the 2.272 macro fib level, which is 137K, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing it has to do, right, I would like to see it have a little bit of a pullback, and then we have lower time frame on the 1 hour. This is what we call a high probability order block reversal setup. So I'd like to see it come back, tag this order block here, hold the value area low, and then we need to push back up, and then we reclaim this level through here, which is basically 95, right? But it's these previous highs back here. Right? So that's what we need to flip. It's also the developing yearly VWAP, right, which is our blue line through there. When you get above that, it's just naturally more bullish because people like institutional traders flip from, instead of selling when it gets to that level, they flip to buying when it gets to that level. Right? You can see back here when we're above it, they were looking to be more buying and more bullish, broke straight through it in a really big sell-off, and then just flipped to selling straight away, right? So what we want to do is we get back above the VWAP, instantly more bullish, right?
Yeah.
Then the next level is to get back above the value area high, which is basically 98.5. But then the key thing that I think we really need to do, right, is take out this 4 hour order block here, right, which is this consolidation that was at the top there. We're going to have a lot of short stops above this level because a lot of people are looking at this and trying to play this as head and shoulders top pattern, right? So when you play that head and shoulders top, if you're selling in here, your stop loss is going to be above here. So at the moment, the target is to take out above 102, all those stop losses above there, right? So then that's the next level that needs to flip, right? And, this can take a lot longer. It can happen faster. It might not have as many pullbacks. But the key is that we need to take out the stop losses above 102 and then flip this level here, which is our macro 1.618, which is what we rejected off. So we've got so much of this 102,000 level and obviously 100K massive macro number as well. Flip that into support, and then from there we can move into markup. And I think once we do flip that into support, I think, and then we've got positive news coming out from Trump and, this crypto ball thing that they're doing. And David Sachs is talking about the future of crypto, and Trump's talking about the future of crypto and America being the crypto country and all this sort of stuff, him being the crypto president. That's why I think we get that move to 137, and maybe even 155, right? And then we'll see how we react to those key levels. But we haven't had a big 30% pullback yet, but maybe we're going to get it. We have a bit more of a sell-off, which would mean we would come down further, and I'd be looking for around 80K because there's a lot happening there. Previous year value area high, which is this level through here, right? And then also the 618. So there's a lot between 80 and 82. We also have that CME gap as well, which we can't ignore, which is a little bit lower, right? So your CME gap from back here.
Yeah.
Right, so that could obviously be a target, and that's around that 80, 82K area. So I think if we do break down, that's the level there. If we can achieve all the things I was talking about just then, right, to break out of this range finally, then yeah, the target's 137 and then 155.
Awesome. Okay, mate, I'll stop sharing your screen. Perfect, thank you. And that was a great. I hope you guys really enjoyed that chart as well as those charts. Well done. I know you've been killing it with your course sales, and for anyone that wants to learn to trade properly, links below to Kyle's course. But any closing thoughts, mate?
Yeah, thanks a lot, mate. Yeah, we've been crushing it recently with our community and the course sales. So we tripled our highest ever sales for new members signing up and stuff like that. So it's been really exciting. The group's been pumping. Members have been getting really good results. It's always fun to see. But yeah, I think, the main thing to focus on moving forward from here is, it's all about Trump and the Trump admin and what they do in the next couple of weeks. That's going to be where the big focus is and the narrative is, what BlackRock does. Larry Fink's out there, talking about how great Bitcoin is again overnight. And, it's going to be about, what are the major ETFs that get passed this year?
Yeah.
Do we get an XRP and Solana ETFs because that's where the money's going to go? Do we get the Litecoin ETF because that's where the money's going to be going from the institutions, and that's going to be where the hype cycle kicks in.
Yeah.
But I think the key is soon we're going to see a bit more of a movement away from this degenerate meme coin trading stuff back into some actual narrative plays, and stuff like that are going to start to be generated by all the companies in the space. Like, narratives don't happen by accident. I feel like they're generated by marketing teams and PR teams and organizations.
Yes.
Right. So I feel like that sort of stuff is going to start happening a lot more over the next few months. And I think that's going to start to happen after we get a bit more frothy. I don't feel like the market's that frothy right now.
No.
I feel like once there starts to get a little bit more froth from Bitcoin going high enough, then we start to see that rotation, because you have the wealth effect. You see the rotation back into alts and stuff like that. Then you get the NFTs start to pop off. Like, when was the last time you heard anyone talk about NFTs? No.
And another good point there, like Sol had that monster run because, like, people, myself included, thought Sol's were really going to struggle after FTX blew up and the connections to FTX and Sam and whatnot. But hats off to Jason, who's head of like our Sol research, who nailed the bottom there, and it's done really well. People are cashed up. Then the Sol meme coin ecosystem explodes. So it's no surprise that when Stacks pulls back 60%, some of the meme coins have pulled back 70, 80, 90%. That's just kind of what happens when the money dries up in an ecosystem. But it's another reason I like it, because once an ecosystem's saturated, people often look for like, well, what's the chain of this cycle? And maybe it's Sui. I don't even know if they have the, healthy meme coin ecosystem or whatnot. But that's why I
think it's starting to pick up.
Yeah.
Because, they got, I think SETA is the main, CETA, that's the main DEX there. So I think it's starting to get a little bit of momentum.
It happens naturally. Once there's money, people look to speculate, and they normally speculate for memes rather than utility. And I think the same thing's going to happen with Stacks or Sui, these other leaders for this cycle this year. Cool. All right, good place to finish. Hope you guys have enjoyed that one. Smash the like button, subscribe, follow Kyle with all the links down below, and we'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, mate. Cheers. Have a good one.
Cheers.